For a brief moment in aviation history, it looked like the future had arrived early. Airports paused, cameras flashed, and airlines proudly rolled out what was supposed to be the ultimate answer to crowded skies. Bigger than anything before it, quieter, smoother, more luxurious. This aircraft wasn't just designed to fly passengers, it was designed to change how the world traveled. But years later, many of the same airlines that once celebrated this plane now wish they never signed the purchase agreement. This is the story of the plane airlines regret buying the most. When Airbus launched the A380, the idea felt bulletproof. Global air travel was booming. Major hubs like London Heathrow, Los Angeles, Sydney, and Dubai were running out of space. Airbus believed the solution wasn't more flights, but bigger planes. If airports were clogged, why not move more people at once? On paper, the A380 was unstoppable. 2 full passenger decks, seating for well over 500 people in standard layout and theoretically more than 800. Ultra-long range, advanced aerodynamics, and a level of cabin quietness passengers had never experienced. Airlines bought into the dream. Emirates went all in. Singapore Airlines made headlines with onboard suites and showers. Qantas, Air France, Lufthansa, British Airways all placed major orders. The A380 wasn't just an aircraft, it was a statement. Fly this plane and you were a global airline. Passengers loved it. If you ever flew on one, you probably remember it. The wide aisles, the smooth ride, the sense that you were on something special. Turbulence felt muted. Long flights felt shorter. For travelers, the A380 was magic. But behind the scenes, the magic was already cracking. The first problem was cost. Not just the price of buying the aircraft, but everything that came after. The A380 drank fuel. It required more crew, specialized training, specialized gates, reinforced runways, custom jet bridges. Only certain airports could even handle it properly. Then came the operational reality. Filling 500-plus seats on every flight sounds fine on a spreadsheet. In real life, it's brutal. Airlines don't make money on full planes. They make money on consistently full planes. One half-empty A380 could wipe out profits from multiple successful flights. Routes had to be perfect, timing had to be perfect, demand had to be perfect, and the world doesn't work like that. As travel patterns changed, passengers stopped funneling through mega hubs the way Airbus predicted. Instead of flying from New York to London to Singapore, travelers wanted more direct routes. Smaller planes flying more often, more flexibility, more frequency. The industry shifted quietly, but the A380 couldn't shift with it. Then there was maintenance. When something goes wrong on a normal widebody, it's expensive. When something goes wrong on the largest passenger jet ever built, it's eye-watering. Parts were unique. Repairs took longer. Grounding one A380 hurt far more than grounding 2 smaller aircraft. Even airlines that loved the plane began to feel trapped by it. Some tried to reconfigure cabins. Others cut routes. A few parked them early. And slowly the warning signs became impossible to ignore. Orders dried up. Airlines delayed deliveries, some canceled entirely. By the mid-2010s, the industry had quietly moved on. Twin-engine widebodies like the Boeing 787 and Airbus A350 were doing the same routes with far less risk. They burned less fuel, needed fewer passengers, could fly point-to-point instead of hub-to-hub. They matched the new reality of air travel. The A380, once the symbol of the future, suddenly felt like a relic of an idea that never fully arrived. And then came the final blow. When Airbus announced the end of A380 production, it wasn't shocking, but it was sobering. Airlines realized what they were left with: a fleet of massive aircraft with shrinking resale value, limited route flexibility, and an uncertain long-term future. Some carriers retired them early, others stored them in deserts. A few are still flying them today, but with far more caution than pride. In the next part, we'll go deeper. We'll talk about which airlines were hit the hardest, how billions were lost, and why even the most advanced aircraft in history can fail if it's built for the wrong future. For some airlines, the regret wasn't immediate. It crept in slowly, flight by flight, balance sheet by balance sheet. Take Air France. Once proud of its A380 fleet, the airline eventually admitted the truth. Operating the aircraft no longer made financial sense. The planes were retired years earlier than planned. not because passengers disliked them, but because the numbers never lined up. The cost of keeping them in the air was simply too high. Lufthansa told a similar story. They parked their A380s long before the aircraft reached midlife. Later, a few were brought back, not out of confidence, but necessity. Even then, executives openly acknowledged that the plane only worked under very specific conditions. When demand dipped even slightly, profits vanished. British Airways kept theirs longer, squeezing value where they could. Yet even BA, with access to one of the world's busiest hubs at Heathrow, struggled to justify the aircraft year-round. Some routes worked, many didn't. The margin for error was razor-thin. And then there was Qantas. For years, the A380 was the backbone of Australia's long-haul fleet. Flights to Los Angeles and London depended on it. Passengers loved it. Crews respected it. But behind closed doors, the airline faced a hard reality. Operating costs were climbing. Maintenance was becoming more complex. And newer aircraft were doing the same job with far less pain. Eventually, several A380s were retired early. Some were dismantled for parts. That's when the image of the dream plane truly cracked, seeing a once-celebrated giant slowly taken apart in the desert. Emirates, of course, is the exception everyone points to. The airline built its entire long-haul strategy around the A380, and for them, it mostly worked. But even Emirates couldn't escape the limits of the aircraft. They pushed Airbus for upgrades that never came. They asked for a new version. It was too late. Without broader airline support, the program was doomed. The deeper issue wasn't that the A380 was badly designed. In many ways, it was over-designed, technologically impressive, beautiful to fly, comfortable beyond anything else in the sky. The problem was timing and philosophy. Airbus built a plane for a future that airlines ultimately rejected. The world didn't want bigger, it wanted smarter. Airlines realized that flexibility beats scale. That flying 250 people directly from Boston to Paris beats flying 550 people through London. That efficiency matters more than spectacle. That a plane doesn't need to feel like a hotel, it needs to make money. And that's the painful lesson behind the A380. Because this wasn't a cheap mistake. Airbus invested tens of billions into the program. Many airlines invested billions more. Training, infrastructure, spare parts, marketing, it all added up. And when the aircraft failed commercially, there was no graceful exit. You can't easily sell an A380. You can't easily convert it to cargo. You can't easily repurpose it. When it stops making sense, it becomes a very expensive problem. That's why aviation experts often call it the most regretted purchase in airline history. Not because it was bad, but because it was too ambitious for a world that changed faster than expected. Today, when you see an A380 taxi past at an airport, it feels different. There's admiration, yes, nostalgia even, but also a sense of what could have been. It's a flying monument to a moment when the industry believed growth would never slow. Hubs would only get bigger, and size would always win. Instead, the future went another way. And that's what makes this story so fascinating. The A380 didn't fail because engineers got it wrong. It failed because predicting the future is the hardest challenge in aviation. And sometimes, even the greatest machine can be built for the wrong sky. If you've ever flown on the A380, you know how unforgettable it was. And if you never did, you missed a rare chapter in aviation history. If you enjoyed this deep dive and want more stories about aircraft decisions, hidden failures, and the business side of aviation, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share this with someone who loves planes as much as you do. Because in aviation, the most interesting stories aren't always about crashes or records. Sometimes they're about the planes that were too big to fail and did anyway.